Yay,
Hi,
Ben.
everybody.
Hi, guys. Hi, Deidre.
Oh, do you know Deidre, Lori?
I know her name. I don't know her.
Hi, Lori. Nice to meet you.
Alex.
Right. Well, welcome, everybody. Can everybody see my screen or slide?
I see the United States with some lines.
Yeah, those are tribal boundaries, at least federally recognized. Ben, you've got a friend with you as well. Great.
I do.
Hello, I'm Emily.
Family.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
Are you a NOAA person also?
Yes, well, I work with the fire weather test bed with Ben, technically Colorado State Cooperative Institute for Research in the Atmosphere.
Okay, well, awesome. I'm glad you guys are here. You guys are our main dish. So we'll get to full introductions in just a minute. I wanted to start by saying sorry about January. That was like, I think the first time we really just had to full on cancel one of these, and I had a big family emergency. So I feel like it's been a really long time since we have talked. It's at least we haven't talked in 2024. And a lot is always happening. So, oh, good. Shasta just arrived. I'm just really glad to be here with you all for our National Tribal Resilience Data Work Group. And one announcement I have to make is our buddy, Lori Montserrat, is now joining the team. She is now contracting to help support some of the tribal climate health work. And we are so happy, relieved. And so help me in welcoming Lori. This is like technically her first official day of duty, but she's going to help me with this group and moving forward. All right, so why don't we do what we normally do, which is say, kind of remind ourselves what we do together, talk about what we're going to do today, and then do some introductions. And so as usual, we come together every other month now, typically, to connect national health and climate data experts, especially those focused on tribal communities, and invite you to exchange knowledge on priority tribal adaptation and resilience needs. Oftentimes in these meetings, we share tools, practices, ideas, and lessons learned from the field. Today, we're going to talk specifically about research. And we like to explore opportunities to develop and scale up solutions that we like to address tribal resilience data needs. And so you all are real key leaders out there doing this work. So we're really happy you're joining us. So I would like to welcome everybody to introduce yourself in whatever way you like over chat, just so everybody kind of has that in front of them. They can see who's who. And I think because it's been a while and we have a few new faces, we might do like a full round of quick intros before we get into our member announcements. And then the full meat of the day is going to be a conversation with Ben Hatchett, our old buddy, who's also just changed roles. He's at NOAA now, and he wants to talk to us about wildfire and smoke research that he's got going on with NOAA. And we want to turn that into an inclusive conversation among all of our organizations about what do we have going that's related to that research. Is there alignment? Are there collaboration opportunities? Okay, so why don't I kick it over to Shasta to welcome and introduce herself, and then we'll go around.
Ooh, what? I know
You.
it's been a while since we've all seen one another or heard one another, or at least seen names. But I'm just happy to see so many familiar and friendly faces. And for those I haven't met, I'm Shasta Gaughan. I am the Environmental Director and Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for the Paula Band of Mission Indians. And I guess technically I'm the director of the Tribal Climate Health Project, but share that role with Angie and all the work that she has done to make this happen. And yeah, it's how long has it been since we've had one of our data work group meetings? I think it was maybe October of last year.
Was it October?
You know what? I don't
you guys know
remember.
better than I do. Maybe
Yeah.
we canceled, I don't know. I thought at least November. What? Yeah, it's been a
It
while.
might have been because we should have done January, but we didn't. So I think the one before that would have, yeah, I think you're right. It must have been November. And you know what, y'all, I just want to put this out there as a little bookmark for the weirdness of time. You may have seen a couple of news announcements here and there from a couple of days ago that said 4 years ago today, the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic for COVID. And I'm like, God, 4 years. Some of you have children now that weren't born when that started. You know, Angie's one of them, right? Yeah, I have kittens now that weren't born when that started. I have 10 cats right now, just so you all know, because I had 4 cats and one of them gave birth to 6 kittens in my closet. So just let me know in the chat if you need a kitten. Put in your address. I'll put them in a box and ship them wherever they need to go in about 2 months when they're weaned. So yes, thank you all for being here, and I'll pass my craziness on to the next person. And Lori, I'm gonna let you be the next.
Hey, y'all, I'm Lori Montserrat. I'm a new contractor for Angie and Prosper. I used to work for the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, which is part of Cal EPA, and I'm super excited to be here. And it's sunny. I live in Northern California, way north, up in Fort Bragg, and it's sunny today, which is super exciting.
Let's kick it over to, do you guys want to introduce yourselves over at NOAA? You'll have more chance to get into details, but just a quick hello.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Ben Hatchett, and I am at the Colorado State University Cooperative Institute for Research in the Atmosphere and NOAA Global Systems Lab's new fire weather test bed.
And
Likewise. Likewise. I'm coming in as a social and decision scientist, and then Ben is a meteorologist. So we sort of complement one another within the test bed.
he told me about a social and this, what is it? Social and what?
Decision science.
That's so cool. All right. Let's hear from Public Health Alliance.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex Nikolai, and I'm the Climate and Policy Analyst here at the Public Health Alliance, and I'm calling in from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Great. And State Board.
Oh, I'm also from Public Health Alliance, so I'll just introduce myself. My name is Colleen Bodenreiter. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the Climate Change and Health Data Lead at the Public Health Alliance's Southern California.
Great. California Water Board.
Hi folks, Anna Holder, pronouns she, her. I'm a newbie to this group. I was forwarded the invite only a couple of days ago, and so looking forward to seeing what this is all about, and hopefully joining on behalf of our office. It's the Office of Information Management and Analysis. NOEMA, I lovingly refer to ourselves as the data nerds of the water boards, and I'm also our office's tribal coordinator, so I do a lot of tribal data work and the things that I do. Thanks.
So glad you're here.
I'm excited you're here, Anna. Sorry.
Yeah, you're in the right place. I actually tried originally with this group to come up with an acronym that said NERDS. We decided against it.
Data enthusiasts is the one that we've used if people have feelings about nerd. I embrace it.
I got it. We're National Enthusiasts of Research Data Science.
Yes, done. You're getting good at this, Chef Steph. Let's go to County of San Diego.
Hi, I'm Isabel Carcos. I'm definitely a nerd. I'm a free range epidemiologist in the Community Health Statistics Unit. I work on a lot of public health and vulnerable populations, in particular tribes. Also, a good chunk of climate change nerding goes on. And a lot of what I do is, well, almost all of it, is data or disaster preparedness and response, and so a cartographer. So, I get to range widely and wildly in the things that I work on. So,
All right, thank you. And let's go to Oweha.
Hi, I'm Emma Tanner. I work for the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment at Cal EPA, and I am in charge of the tribal engagement for the California climate change indicators, which I'm taking over from Lori Montserrat.
Great. Hi, Emma. And I saved Carb for last because there are new friends that are coming today, and I'm so glad you all are here. They do research. So do you guys want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I can start. I'm Sonia, they, them. I work at the California Air Resources Board in the research division, the research planning coordinator. So I do coordination around our research needs. I'll pass it on to the next person. I see Nazat also in the room.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I had a great pleasure meeting with Angie through our public workshop that was organized and lead by our lead staff, Dr. Sonia Collier, who just introduced, to all of us. And we, talk about especially our research plan and goal for the next 5 years, and got really a good feedback. As far as me, my name is Nezat Motalibi, and I'm with the CARB Research Division. With respect to the wildfire project, my primary responsibility is managing and working with the research investigator. I have a project that was recently completed on understanding and mitigating wildfire risk in California. And the primary goal of this project was mainly to improve the emission factor for the species that are emitted from the wildfire or prescribed. And that was completed in December. And I also have one ongoing project on understanding and characterizing emission factor from burning structure in California due to the wildfire that impact the WUI, environment. And hopefully we'll soon, have another new project. This one is mainly on understanding the air quality impact of the wildfire and prescribed burn in urban environment in California, that is going to do some both, comprehensive measurement and modeling work. So that is my responsibility for CARB/research division on the wildfire aspects of our program. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have a chance to talk more about how that relates with everything else going on.
Yes.
Who else at CARB?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Sarah Patiglio, and I work with Sonia on planning our air quality, climate, and health research at the Air Resources Board. And I'll pass it to Deidre.
Hi all. Sorry I had to drop off and then jump back on. My name is Deidre Zoll, and I work with Sarah and Sonia in the research division at CARB, and thinking about kind of alignment for future research efforts. So happy to be here, and thank you for allowing us to sit in.
Thank you. And Bailey.
Yeah, I'm Bailey Smith. I will also work at CARB, but in a different part of CARB, not the research division. My interest here today is that we're working on developing a climate risk assessment tool that's intended to be a spatially explicit index of like what the climate risks are, the multitude of climate risks, which is going to be very data driven. And we're starting to think about how we can include tribal data and what tribal perspectives of what's the biggest, most important risk that we should weight in this index. So I thought this was really timely for.
Oh, that's awesome, Bailey. And you're not new to me, but I'm glad you're here in that context. So thank you. And I would be looking for a May speaker if that's something you would like to bring back to the group.
Absolutely.
Cool. So yeah, CARB was like the last agency that I just forgot to harass. I always think of them on mitigation, but I was like, oh, they're doing a lot on adaptation side of things too. So I'm so glad you're here. Last but not least, Chris from California Water Board joined us.
Great. Hi. There we are. Great. Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone again. Chris Hyun, he, him, California State Water Board climate lead, and I work on everything climate at the State Water Board. And I wasn't sure if Anna was able to introduce herself, also from the State Water Board.
She did, yes.
Okay, great. Sorry for joining late.
All right. And actually, I just saw Trace joined us. Do you want to introduce yourself, Trace? We're just about to get over to our member announcements.
Sure, thank you. Hi, so my name is Trace Sykes. I'm the incoming program manager for Paula's Tribal Energy and Climate Collaborative. A bit about me, my background is a mix of climate science, social science, and political science. So I like to make that actionable through program management, qualitative research that supports equitable approaches to resilience planning, energy planning, and all of those very fun things. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you, Trace. Okay, so that was incredible. And actually, I'm not sure. A lot of member announcements kind of happen in those introductions, but we do like to leave this space open in the beginning of our meeting since so much is going on. What would others in this room benefit from hearing about that you're aware of from your vantage point? You know, it could look like, you know, there's an opportunity out there or some new accomplishment, something new that you're doing you want people to know about. So I'm just going to leave some space open here.
You know me, Angie, I always have things to say. So even though I'm the lead on this with you, I still want to talk about all the awesome things that we're accomplishing. And, you know, one of those things is having Trace come on board as our program manager for the Tribal Energy and Climate Collaborative. She's been here for, I think, today is day 8. You know, definitely jumping in head first to our organized chaos here. But I'm hopeful that we'll be able to talk more about what tech is and is doing as we move forward. But you know, the short version is that we are being supported by the Strategic Growth Council as one of their regional climate collaborative grantees, and also from the National Science Foundation as an economic innovator in the tribal space in terms of green energy and clean tech. And that's all coming together to serve the 25 member tribes of the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association. So for all of you, you're mostly agency folks and a couple of NGOs, but I think that there's going to be opportunities for us all to work together in this space. So that's one exciting thing. And then I want to highlight that in our partnership with the Public Health Alliance, we got some money from somewhere. Was it CARB?
CEC.
Yes, from CEC, the California Energy Commission, to work on creating a tool. What are we doing? Angie, tell me what we're doing because I don't remember anymore.
So we
or
get to work with
Colleen or somebody.
Index. Yeah, you guys might be better, but we get to work with Healthy Places Index, which is one of our favorite tools, and help them build out a tribal, some tribal functionality, a potential tribal portal, and starting with extreme heat. I don't know if you guys want to say more, that would be great.
Yeah, and I can say it's kind of translating a lot of the concepts that you brought up in your guys' easy tool, and trying to translate that approach in a new panel that we're planning to add to our Healthy Places Index, Extreme Heat Edition.
Right, like a real end user tool.
Yeah, super excited about that. I think that's, I know there's other stuff I could talk about. I'll briefly mention that Paula is in a what do you call it? We're partnering with 3 other tribes in Southern California to pursue CPRG funding. That's the climate pollution reduction grant funding, and hopeful that we're going to be able to do some implementation. And that's stuff that CARB is certainly, you know, interested in hearing about. And yeah, I think we'll be doing, again, a lot of work together, but we're partnering with Viejas, La Posta, and Jamul in the southern part of San Diego County. And I know there's a lot of other groups that are going after that CPRG funding to try to spend as much of the Biden administration's money as we can, and hope that we have a second year or a term of Biden funding. But yeah, let's spend the money while we have it, everybody. And please talk me off the ledge about November. That's it. I got nothing else.
Anyone else? I'll just mention one more thing on our end. Shasta spent some time at the White House community, what the heck was it called? Community Resilience Workshop at the end of last year. And in prep for that, we ended up pulling together our recommendations at the federal level for what they call climate services and what we call data. And so we'd be happy to share that with all of you. I'm beginning to share that in other venues too, even through like the American Society of Adaptation Professionals, and somebody there took it on to some legislative meetings. So it's something that I'd be happy to share with you all. It's sort of a summary of some of our takeaways, hopes, and dreams from this work that we've been doing in data development. All right.
I actually forgot about that. So yeah, thanks for reminding me. See, I'm just, Lori, you got that in the chat. Nice name drop. Shasta happened to be at the White House. And so I'm just going to make it even more, blasé by saying, oh yeah, the White House. I forgot all about going to the White House.
Yeah, just hanging with Biden. All right, last call for announcements. Okay, so I think now we are going to hand it off to Ben and Emily. I'm so excited. I'm gonna have to share my screen control with you, right? Let's see.
It works. I can oh wait, yeah, I think I can take it from you.
Great.
We'll do that. And then we'll do, let me just get that. Looks good. All right.
Yeah, it looks great.
Cool. Well, even though our facility is located in Boulder, Colorado, we're located in other places. I'm still in Northern California, in Sonoma County and South Lake Tahoe. And Emily is currently in Pittsburgh. Well, currently she's next to me in Boise, Idaho. But she's going to be moving to Boulder. But we are nationally focused. We're a new test bed in NOAA, and it's a joint program between 3 different line offices in NOAA, the Global Systems Lab, which is the facility you're looking at here, the National Weather Service, and NESDIS, which is also known as NOAA Satellites. And so we're the user needs assessment team, and we're excited to chat with all of you about potential data uses, how you use data, what kind of data you would like to have, what kinds of products and services the National Weather Service and NOAA can provide to you. So to give a little bit of examples about test beds, for those of you who are unfamiliar, test beds in NOAA are developed with the goal to link research to operations and improve the services and support to partners that NOAA provides. There's 13 of them. There were 12. We're the lucky number 13th. And typically these have been very National Weather Service focused or some other smaller groups within NOAA. As a result of the infrastructure law and the Disaster Recovery and Support Act, if I got that right, the fire weather test bed was established and got formed just last summer. So we're a very, very new program. Formerly, I was at the Desert Research Institute as a research professor in atmospheric science, working on weather and climate extremes with Cal OHIA, so where Lori used to work, and Carmen Milanes, who some of you probably know, and then also collaborating a bit with Angie over the years. And this was a really cool opportunity to shift focus to solely focus on fire for me. And I'll let Emily give a little bit of her background there too in a second. So a couple key differences with the fire weather test bed. One major difference is we are very much intending to support all agencies across all scales that are involved in wildland fire. So that's your local prescribed burn association, the various land management agencies, tribal organizations, land managers who are just like landowners, through basically everyone who's, if you're involved in fire, we want to talk to you. We want to hear from you. We want to know how NOAA can better provide information to you. And a lot of that, we'll explain kind of that a little bit more about our user needs assessment. The second key difference compared to most NOAA test beds is we have a very heavy focus on social science, and we have, I believe, more social scientists employed in our test bed and affiliated groups than physical scientists, which is pretty cool because the science can be great, but if it's not getting to people and being used by people, that's where a lot of these limitations come in. So I'll turn it over to Emily real quick here to give a little bit of her background.
Yeah, it's great to meet you all. I'm really excited to learn more about what your data and information needs are. But yeah, quick background on myself. Before taking this position, I was a postdoc with the Army Corps of Engineers, sort of in their R&D wing in the Risk and Decision Science Lab. I focused on developing decision support tools for post-fire flood risk management for the Corps. And I was also involved in various public health oriented projects within the Corps. They're thinking a lot about smoke, air quality, and its impact on respiratory illness, believe it or not. So even though I was at the Army Corps of Engineers, I had a pretty diverse set of projects I was working on, but realized along the way that I really wanted to focus on fire-related research. So yeah, like Ben, really happy to be in the test bed.
Cool, thanks, Emily. Yeah, and so we're going to be focusing on various products, services, new technologies, communication approaches and methods and techniques. And our key area of focus is, over the next several years, is going to be developing a super comprehensive user needs assessment. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. But one thing to also keep in mind with our test bed is that we're interested in the talking to everyone and working with everyone, and we want to cover the full wildland fire cycle. So we are interested in pre-fire planning, fuels mitigation approaches, evacuation methodologies and development, understanding what's happening during fire, so when those evacuations are provided, how people are responding, how fire warnings are issued, and then post-fire recovery. So anything from hydrologic hazards, post-fire debris flows, flash flooding, water quality issues, things that affect ecosystem function and ecosystem health, as well as planning for the next fire and learning from where we've come from. So we're really interested in the full fire cycle. The other slight difference is we are very user-driven. We want to drive NOAA's research programs forward from the operational perspective. We very much want to understand what people need and drive the research in academia and in other national labs towards that goal. So why are we doing this user needs assessment? There's been some done before. We're doing it in a different way, and we are pretty excited about the methods that we'll share with you about how we're going to go forwards with that. The key reason we're doing this is because there is, as you're probably all aware of, a lot of interest in wildland fire, a lot of money being invested in it. And at least from the NOAA perspective, we want to help drive and set the tone and direction of this fire-related research and contribute to informing research performed by other agencies. We really want to take advantage of this opportunity, which has come with a lot of negative side effects, but we very much want to drive NOAA research forward in a positive manner. To do so, we are going to be performing this needs assessment to prioritize the kinds of evaluations that we perform in the fire weather test bed. So what new research ideas and products are going to be brought into the test bed. We'll have different folks from different agencies come in and use these products, get feedback, do different social science experiments and evaluations to understand how well those products meet needs, how they need to be improved. And through this process, there's going to be a lot of engagement and interactions with various end users. Through that, we want to understand and recognize human behavioral and decision-making patterns. That's where Emily comes in, extremely important in that component to understand how people are taking this information into account and what they're doing with it across different contexts and for different kinds of processes. So with fire, we're thinking about all the different scales, whether it's a very small fire at the edge of the community, whether it's smoke impacts on the community, who's using that information, how that information is getting shared, communicated, and what kinds of protective actions can be taken across all of these different scenarios. We really want to understand existing challenges, barriers, and opportunities, as well as learn about ones that are unanticipated. So a new product comes out that addresses some known challenges, deals with some existing barriers, capitalizing on a known opportunity. But of course, with all of that, we're going to be seeing things that we didn't anticipate. Oh, we thought this would work. However, this new problem came up. We want to identify those kinds of situations before these products are made operational. And that's a key piece in the research and development to deployment and ultimately operationalization of products. And in the end, we really want to understand, what is or what would be useful, not to a researcher in a lab who is somewhat connected with reality, picking myself as a great example. And so we want to know what, as someone who's using this information to make decisions, to inform their community, to write grants, to support their community throughout this process, what's helpful for you to address your needs? And really throughout this process to maintain this operations to research to operations cycle in a very integrated and iterative manner. And so,
sorry, there's a little bit of background noise.
Oh,
So I
okay.
don't know if we should.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna switch spots because we're getting some noise in the background here. So I'm going to take us on a little tour here. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, you're going on a little tour. Oh, I guess we could go to the pool. I'll keep talking while we're going, and hopefully we stay.
No, wait. I'm sorry. Did you say a pool?
There's a pool in our hotel.
Oh, you're in a hotel. Oh, wow. Okay.
The hot tub. Oh, the hot tub's functioning again. It used to not be working.
Oh, next time we have a meeting, and we're going to definitely have a hot tub meeting.
He's trying to catch up with the White House name drop. Instead of White House, he's like, oh, the hot tub.
Uh-oh, and now he's frozen.
A little froze. It's okay.
Hopefully his Wi-Fi will catch up.
I really like, well, we always like Ben, and especially because he uses words like operationalizable, because I think I've used that many a time. I'm like, that's my new favorite word because it really talks about what we're trying to do here. I mean, what he's talking about is very in line with what this group has always been focused on, which is like, how do we get the information into decision-making processes within tribal governments, and how can we help them to be able to see these blind spots of risk.
Ruh-roh.
Now we really lost them. That's okay. What I might do here.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
No problem. We were just talking about you while you were gone.
Oh boy. Sorry, we were in a room with people who are in rooms that are used to being very loud and noisy. We're at the IMET Incident Meteorologist Conference, and they are doing a lot of stuff happening at the same time. Okay, we should be back now. Okay, that looks good. Was that okay? Sweet. Let's see. Close this down. Okay, so I'm not sure where I lost you. Hopefully the part about why we were doing this user needs assessment came through.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And I'll share all of these slides with you all afterwards. But so I think one way to really think about us as a what we are is we're very much a translational platform. And so we want to be the facilitators to develop these unique and new, that's why we use the word transdisciplinary collaborations to improve our collective or shared understanding of the full fire environment, the places we live, the fuels around us, the weather that impacts things, and then the full system that we're operating under when we have fire, before fire happens, and after fire has occurred. So we kind of draw ourselves in as this bubble that really helps to improve the linkage between producers and users. And so one part of our goal is to really identify all the varied parties and users and strategically evaluate their needs pertaining to fire weather and products that support decision-making across the variety of timescales. We don't know what those are. We have an idea, but we want to hear from you what those are and how we can start to integrate all of that together with the producers of this information who are building new satellites or developing new models or creating new smoke forecast tools to provide back to you and help to develop new tools that address some of the needs or gaps that currently exist. And through that process, we're going to be identifying these various types of research questions that we will then push back up the chain to academia or other research groups to really make sure that the work that they are doing addresses these needs and kind of consistently incorporates the users in this process in a very iterative sense to, like I was kind of saying, collectively improve our understanding from both the user and developer perspectives and bring those people together. So what we're calling our approach is kind of the triple threat approach, where it includes very standard kinds of methods, which is kind of the traditional, formal, academic, very research focused, including interviews, surveys, focus groups, and workshops. And then what I'm very excited for is the learning by doing, and that's a very much a relationship focused component of this. And that's going to be, there's really no substitute for spending time in the field with people, shadowing them, learning through the experience. Throughout my own experience in wildland fire, becoming a prescribed burn practitioner a few years ago, you have very different conversations with people in a hotel room in some random place where there's no windows. Those are great conversations, but those are going to be very different conversations than you have when you're sitting 2 feet away from the fire or thinking about what are we going to do when this is actually a wildland fire or we're doing a prescribed burn. Totally different conversations, and we want to hear those and develop those with folks over time. That will all connect into our fire weather testbed evaluations, which are going to be held some as kind of surveys or other semi-virtual experiments. Some will be strictly virtual evaluations where folks will just get online and use products and tools, and that'll all be facilitated. Others will be in person in Boulder, Colorado, where we have a facility to bring people in, bring in different groups of folks who would work together in, say, emergency management situations to see how they use tools, make decisions with or without these new tools, and evaluate that. And then throughout this process, what we learn in those top 2 more research type methods are going to be used to drive the questions in this third approach. Emily, do you have any additions there?
No, I think you covered it really well. I think, yeah, they'll be used to drive research questions, as well as to an extent what tools, products we're evaluating within the test bed. And I think that, yeah, I just want to reiterate that we're trying to listen to the needs of as many groups as possible to sort of identify common barriers, challenges, and help prioritize what's evaluated in the test bed, which I think you already covered, but yeah.
So to give a couple examples, I know we like sharing data here, so we'll share a few of these and just as teasers, and I can provide links to all of these if you aren't aware of them. Some of you, and I know I'm really excited to have a bunch of CARB folks here because you are a key group that we are very, very excited in interacting with and learning how NOAA can help support you. So there are a growing suite of smoke forecast tools that are now available and updated on hourly timescales, which is very helpful in terms of thinking about, am I going to need to make the call to send the kids in from recess early? Are we not having recess today? Are we not going to school today? Are we totally staying in your house at home? Are we deploying other types of protective actions? So there's a lot of interest and research work happening now with the high resolution rapid refresh model and some of its subsequent iterations and developing smoke products. Some of these are becoming increasingly probabilistic in the sense that we're running multiple models multiple times to develop probabilities of smoke exceeding key health-related thresholds, so that you can say there is a 50% chance today that we will exceed an AQI of 200, for example. And thinking about things like the visualization approaches, the ways that that information can be effectively communicated to a variety of different partners and community members are all areas of very, very high priority research within the testbed, as are fire outlooks for people's planning perspectives in terms of resource staffing. How many people do you want to have at the fire station? Do we need to start messaging the community that, hey, if a fire starts, it could get very big and very bad very quickly? In some cases, that can help members of the public who might be slower to evacuate or have more difficulty plan in advance. I have friends who they will leave if we go into red flag warning conditions because they know it takes them a long time to get out. They don't want to get stuck in traffic. They have big, large animals and pets that they need to move. So the fire outlooks is another area of great interest for us. On that probabilistic note, there are some new publicly available tools that the National Weather Service and our Global Systems Laboratory have been developing. Don't have time to go into that here, but we'd be happy to talk more about those if that's something of interest to be able to use for not just fire-related things, but heat and cold are very, very useful situations for these types of tools to be able to say, what is the 90th percentile forecast of temperature? Is that going to cross a critical heat related threshold where sensitive communities are going to be negatively impacted, or we're going to see potential energy availability decreasing and therefore reducing our adaptive capacity to run air conditioning, for example. So this is a thing called the DESI tool, not quite the other tool that Angie developed, but this is the dynamic ensemble-based scenarios for impact-based decision support services. So bonus points for acronyms within an acronym. So we have DESI and we have EASY. They're both super awesome. And we'd be happy to talk more about these at another time. Some of the new research we've been working on is more focused on the what we call the long lead, so kind of 7 to 10 days out to subseasonal timescales, which is more like weeks 2, 3, getting into a month out, which is very important for different types of planning. I remember talking with a public health official who was saying, if we could have a heat forecast 3 weeks to a month in advance, that would be very helpful. And so we've been working on that from the perspective of doing some meteorological and climatological analyses of what we call weather regimes, which are different combinations of atmospheric circulations that lead to high impact weather. And we've broken them down into 16 here. Don't worry, there will not be a quiz on this, but the point to make here is that from all of these different weather regimes, which have skill in forecasting different types of highly impactful patterns at these weeks 1 through 3 lead times, it gives us additional time to plan and prepare. And so far we've been looking at, we've really been focused on kind of the larger scale problems, atmospheric rivers, so the components of large storms that contribute to either very beneficial storms in terms of replenishing our water resources, but also posing things like flood and wind hazards. Heat waves, we see pretty good skill out to about 3 weeks on forecasting heat waves, especially out of season heat waves, which are of great interest this time of year as we start moving into the season where the first heat wave, no one's acclimated, no one's ready for it. Messaging is really key to ensure protective actions are made there. And then we've also been looking at Santa Ana winds because, as many of you know, those are extremely high impact in terms of fire, heat, and interestingly, in the absence of fire, they are very good for air quality. They blow all of the smog and junk out to sea, and you get very, very clear sky, good air quality days. If a fire is occurring, it's kind of the opposite of that. We've now shifted a little bit to be a little bit more fire specific focused, and that's going to be an area of I think some interest to the folks at CARB. I talked a little bit a few months ago with Jason Brands about some of these ideas, and so we're now thinking about forecasting fuels out 1 to 3 weeks to try to identify good periods for burning from a fuels perspective, but then also thinking about how these different weather regimes could be used to identify times where you're more or less likely to get a burn or no burn day. And so some examples from the climatology from the Air Resources Board is shown on the right there, and you can see some of those weather regimes are, you kind of have equal chances of getting a burn or no burn day, and then there's other ones that are pretty substantially shifted. So like that weather regime 4 and 5, if those events are taking place, you can see it's much more likely that a no burn day is going to be issued that day. And from a practitioner side, that's very valuable to us to know whether or not we make the call to get people out, get resources out. Do we do messaging to the community to say that you might see smoke, you might smell smoke, you might be impacted by that smoke, or not. So that's one other area of interest that we're working on. With that, I think we can open it up for some discussion now. Just wanted to give basic overview of kind of what we're thinking about. We're very open to ideas, feedback, input, and as our manager of the testbed, Zach, says, we're building the airplane as we're trying to fly it. So if you want to hop in a hot air balloon and come join us as we take off, that would be awesome. And throughout this process, I guess from a personal level for me, working with the tribes, particularly in Lake and Sonoma counties, these are a couple pictures from Burns with them, has been really inspiring to me to see just how important this is to bring fire back to these communities and landscapes that have had fire excluded from it for such a long period of time following European settlement. So this is a pretty exciting time to really make some good contributions into fire and our health. And yeah, I think at that point we can take some questions.
Very exciting, Ben. Thanks for sharing it. And, I feel like there's like a generosity behind what you're doing to share and collaborate with so many of us around the country. So thanks for that opportunity. Lori, you had some questions here in the chat. Do you want to just raise those since you were first?
Yeah, I'm a woman of many questions. So I was thinking about your tool in terms of the misuse of tools and the CAL FIRE map that's caused all the insurance to be canceled. Have you thought about misuse of your tool?
Not explicitly. I guess I kind of just assume that here you put something out there publicly and there's a risk of that taking place at all times. That's probably a good Emily question.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Who?
No, we haven't really discussed that as sort of a side effect of putting information like this out there into the public sphere. But I do think it's something worth considering and trying to build safeguards as much as possible so that we're not, conveying any misleading information or, yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you.
And then I wondered for the evacuation piece, because you talked about that at the beginning, that are you going to just use like information on a big scale? Or are you going to look with like tribes and hubs and routes and little agencies that help with evacuation on there? What's the scale?
So that's really I think we're interested in all the scales, whether it's, small, very rural communities that may have a emergency operations center that's like, as people say, in a closet versus like the one in Sacramento, which are quite different and still scaling up and down through the incident command system. But I think as far as our evaluations and research goes, we want to hear from everybody and make sure that the voices of very small, otherwise, it's in some regards underserved communities get their their concerns heard and incorporated as best we can.
And I
how
think
do
that
they
with it,
how do they reach you?
So our emails are up on the board now. Just that's going to be part of our engagement strategy, which we didn't really talk about, which I think what we're thinking now is starting out with kind of connecting with known collaborators and partners like many of you here. And then also hopefully relying on kind of the snowball sampling approach where if you know some people that would be interested in this, please put us in touch. We're here and we would love to hear from folks. We totally recognize people are very busy, so we want to be careful about requiring time to do surveys or set aside time for interviews and focus groups. And we kind of just want to say, keep our doors perpetually open for office hours. Of anytime someone wants to talk with us, we're there. And we will have like open survey approaches so that if there was an incident or situation that brings up some questions from someone, that can be submitted to us so that we'll be able to get it and get back to them.
Yeah, this is bringing up a point around just engagement fatigue, and this is a topic I talk about all the time, and everybody wants to hear, genuinely wants to get input to make their stuff as good as it can be. But hopefully we can talk in this space, or a little bit around opportunities to streamline and come to places where tribes already are, and Tribal Climate Health Project has a lot of those, so we're happy to help.
Awesome.
Right.
Are there other questions?
Yeah,
there
sure.
are.
There's a
Sonia
question here from Sonia at CARB about the warnings. So do warnings like recreation increase around holidays that lead to increased fireworks usage? That's a great question. Or a gender reveal party.
Let me see the actual question here.
Thank you for laughing, Lori.
I haven't done the analysis yet, but I have seen some other papers that do see increases in kind of these preemptive warnings leading up to July 4th is a good one. You see a nice spike in fires occurring US wide around that. And that's a piece that ties in with a little bit of the communication research that we're doing in terms of using what we call commonplaces, which are shared values, beliefs, to kind of leverage that to be able to say, like, we know we want to celebrate the whatever, but this is maybe not the best time. Here's some alternative ways to do that, and kind of learn what types of language really fits in with people that hopefully may motivate them to take that warning a little bit more seriously.
So I actually have several of my own, or at least a few of my own questions. And as many of you know, I'm an anthropologist by training, a cultural anthropologist. And so whenever anybody brings social science into this kind of research, I get very excited because oftentimes I feel like that's a missing piece. And we for sure want to make sure that we are looking at the human behavioral pieces of this. So I'm hoping, Emily, you can explain a little bit more of how you're going about that. And I'm especially interested because that's some of the work we're doing here with tribes. It's really important from, like, say, a cultural standpoint for us to understand how some of this work is going to relate to things that are of importance to the tribes, like managing all the way from the practical, like managing evacuation routes, during a wildfire, which is a huge issue for us here in Paula, to bringing back controlled fire and good fire to the land in terms of, the cultural aspects of appropriate fire management. So that's kind of a lot. So I'll just let you take it from there.
So within my position, it's really focused on gathering as much information on user needs as possible. So what are the challenges? What are the barriers? How do they vary from culture to culture, region to region, user to user? And so just sort of really looking for more, I guess, open-ended, exploratory, qualitative data for the most part to begin as we get ramped up. Then within the physical fire weather test bed, there was going to be, we haven't hired them yet, but a sort of social scientist within the test bed helping to design evaluations and experiments for these products. And I think that it's important within those evaluations to bring in as much grounded social science as possible, to bring in as many diverse voices as possible, and set up, a lot of it will be sort of scenario based, where we're testing a product in a, you know, case study scenario. And I think to give test bed participants scenarios where they have to consider, you know, cultures, maybe cultures that are their own or other cultures, is one thing that we plan on doing. And yeah, baking into those evaluations. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I think we could probably have a much longer conversation about
Yes.
this, but I'm going to sort
Yeah.
of mull that over a little bit. But I see that Trace has her hand up, so I'm going to let her. I know she has experience with working with fire and tribe, so I am eager to hear what you have to ask.
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, comment, this is very exciting work, and I'm definitely, giving like just cheering you on as you're incorporating all of these really challenging and very important concepts into the way that you're approaching this. So first of all, just like a big yay for that. So that's great. So yeah, as Shasta was mentioning, a lot of my work has focused on research with frontline communities that identifies key barriers and problem chains to evacuation in particular, and even asking that big scary question of, is evacuation a reasonable option for you? So that we can go ahead and just say, let's talk about it. If it's not, why not? And then what would happen in that case? And so I think you kind of answered one of my questions already. I was going to ask you, and so what was coming up a lot for us were these very nuanced problem chains, in which, during a certain time of day, someone would have less access to reliable transportation and therefore couldn't do X, Y, and Z, those kinds of things. And so it sounds like maybe that scenario planning is where you're going to start sort of sifting through those things. Is that right?
Yeah, and sort of translating what we're finding in our user needs assessment, like that being an example, into the quasi-operational evaluation environment. So what are research questions? What are things that we need to be sort of probing to see whether the tools and products that we're testing can cover that? Do they satisfy that sort of need?
Fantastic. That's really cool and just wicked smart. And I'm excited to see what comes of that. We found that tenancy status was huge, and had, if you look at it, which I'm sure, this is not news to you. When you look at like the larger data sets, a lot of them overlook that. So, there's a different situation for someone who's renting their home versus owning it in terms of what they can do or not do for mitigation, which then puts them in a different situation during an evacuation scenario. So that was one thing that came up for us. But my next question is really, it's more about community-led solutions. So that was something that really came up for us. And I was wondering if there's space in what you're exploring to also look at not only, the barriers that a community is experiencing and the needs and those things, which is like obviously super crucial. But then also, what we've found and find, and what I'm sure all of you know too, is that oftentimes communities, they kind of have a pretty good idea of what a really solid solution would be, but it just might need like capacity or a certain element of technical expertise. And so I was curious about, what sort of landing place you're considering for capturing those kinds of ideas.
And hey guys, I need to do a quick time check here because we're about 1 minute out from the end, and because I invited Carb, I was hoping to have time for a little bit of discussion with them about collaborative research. But why don't you take maybe a brief stab at that one?
Yeah, that's a really it's a super good question, and it's really been really cool to see communities go, we kind of know what we want to do, and so, but we, like you were saying, Trace, need the resources or need some piece to facilitate that. And so that's, I think, where I would put us as being facilitators in some regards to that, of based on the solutions that you see as best for your community. are there barriers that are in place that we could help reduce or address in some way by providing some sort of decision support to help you implement those, as well as we're all, of course, here too to serve as side peer reviewers and try to help you help those communities get that either whether it's grant funding or other types of things through the process to kind of leverage our connections and expertise to help out there.
Yeah, I think we want to track both the barriers as well as successes, what is working in our needs assessment. So yeah, I think that, yeah, very good point. And we're hoping to capture it as comprehensively as we can.
Fantastic, thank you.
Sorry, Angie, I thought we had 90 minutes, so you go.
Yeah, well, before the CARB folks leave, I wanted to give you guys a chance to chime in too on like, where do you see opportunities for alignment? I've got a bunch, when Ben and I have been talking about ways that Tribal Climate Health Project has some things going where wildfire and health risks completely fit in, and it helps us have these conversations in really constructive ways. But I wanted to hear from CARB before we have to close out.
Yeah, so we are developing our 5-year research plan, which will outline our research priorities that we would like to fund over the next 5 years. Because if you're not aware, CARB does have a research program. We have about $6 million a year to fund research, primarily to support CARB programs. So we do a lot of research on air quality, climate mitigation, and health. But we have created a public process to inform our 5-year plan and the research priorities that we'll have. And we've created a separate process also to develop our environmental justice research priorities in coordination with community-based organizations. But I'll hand it to Sonia and Deidre if they want to go into more detail about the plan and the process.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I just dropped a link in the chat that takes you to our strategic research plans page. And so it gives a little bit of an overview. Right now, we're closing out our triennial plan that covers years 2021 through 2024. So we're developing right now a new plan that will cover years 2025 through 2030. And what the plan provides is an overview of all of our past and current research in 5 major research categories, which include health, climate, air quality, mobile sources, and sustainable communities and transportation. Environmental justice is woven through all of those categories, and we'll have a section focused on that. The plan also gives an overview of like how we do coordination or how we do our research planning. It has a lot of great resources, and then it's going to also outline our future research priorities. And so in order to put that plan together, we are ramping up various coordination efforts, coming and talking to groups like all of you in this room, to get you interested in that process and talking to us about what research priorities you have. And then we have a parallel public process, and yeah, we just talked to all of our public agency, academic, environmental justice, tribal partners that we can, and coordinate as much as possible on gathering those research priorities to include them in this plan. So obviously we collect a lot of ideas and we can't fund all of them over the next 5 years, but it really helps, put us onto a good path to address some of the most important issues that are impacting people in those research areas. Yeah, so maybe Deidre, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the community-based organization process that we're developing as well.
And by the way, anybody who has a noon hard stop, you're free to go. We'll continue into overtime for whoever can. Thank you.
And if Deidre's not here, I can quickly go over that process as well. Oh, she's here. Go ahead, Deidre.
I'll keep it super short. So we've contracted with 7 community-based organizations, and the goal is that we're working with them to co-develop environmental justice research initiatives. There currently aren't any tribes involved in that process. And, we have sort of limited capacity right now at CARB to do that kind of in a way that we think is necessary to do it right. So what we're doing right now, sort of on the tribal side, is just meeting with the people that at CARB, like Bailey, that are already kind of doing involvement and seeing if we can sort of synergize and provide research support on the things we're already doing, on the areas that we already have engagement. And we don't want to kind of go into spaces and not be doing that in the right way. So that's sort of the quick process of that. But I think anywhere where we can help think further about synergies between all of these really large initiatives, I don't want to speak for Sonia or Sarah, but or Nizat, but I think that that's something we would be really interested in. We don't want to kind of duplicate things that are happening. We want to be able to kind of come in and support and along kind of the research side as much as possible. And I think that there's a lot of power, like the sum of the whole is greater than the, whatever the saying is, like the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right? So I think areas that we can do any of that kind of further thinking about potential research collaborations, we'd be excited to continue to have those conversations.
It's making me think that one thing that could be really useful is a meeting among agencies at least serving California that, let's talk about your tribal engagement for 2024 on climate research related topics or something, something where we could let's streamline among at least several agencies. Because we've got a bunch of stuff where we're actually going to go out and talk to tribes, but you do too. And not everybody has a Shasta. And even if you do, Shasta's already doing 60 jobs. And so they just don't have time. So we got to kind of consolidate this stuff for them. And we can help do that. Would folks be interested in a specific meeting on that topic where we can kind of run through 2024 tribal engagement opportunities? Okay.
Well, let me just tell you a little secret real quick that CARB is working on a tribal engagement strategy. How do I know? Because I'm working on it for them.
Oh, that's right. Is that tied to the community engagement plan or is that totally separate? Because that draft community engagement plan is out too. Separate, right?
Separate. Yeah, it's intentionally separate because we hear a lot tribes aren't communities, right? And that process is being developed with community experts without tribal representation. And so we don't want to either A, get in Bailey and Shasta's way, or B, kind of not do it appropriately.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, I'm talking about a meeting where we're going to be really nuts and bolts. What's on your agenda? How do we do it more efficiently together? Okay. Let's do that. I'll follow up, okay? And State Water Board, you might be interested too. I mean, we don't have to focus exclusively on wildfire. For me, the 2024 for Tribal Climate Health Project is gonna ideally focus really hard on wildfire and water.
Yeah, I know OEMA is definitely interested and I actually just got a new position and in that role, I'm going to be redoing our tribal engagement strategy for OEMA. So I'd love to complement whatever's happening here.
Yeah, and we have wildfire folks or fire folks in water boards, across water boards in different functions, so we can bring them in as well. And I also had a question, if it's a side question about CARB's tribal engagement strategy, maybe I can connect with Shasta or someone on how they're doing that and what we could do from State Water Board side in terms of seeing what they're doing. And I can talk with our tribal liaison, Adriana Renteria.
Well, I'm going to leave that answer to Bailey because it's not I don't know. I don't have the answer.
Yeah, I can answer and say we'll be super happy to talk to you and think about how we can work together on that work. So if you shoot me an email, we can have a conversation about that tribal engagement strategy.
Great, because we want to reduce that fatigue that we've been talking about.
Well, and I can also say, just from my experience, representing a tribe and working for a tribe, and what Angie mentioned about engagement fatigue and all that, one of my common complaints is that all the different agencies try to do their own engagement strategy. And I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? You only need one. You know, the state needs to adopt one, and then the individual agencies can tailor it to their specific needs around their areas of expertise. But no tribe wants to get 52 letters from agencies that say, will you please consult with us on our tribal engagement strategy? It makes us want to stab ourselves, or better yet, an agency person in the face. So I'm violent. I'm being violent, you guys, because
None
it's
of you,
after lunch
none
and
of
now I'm angry. I
All
apologize.
right.
I
Well,
won't
so
tell anybody.
we're gonna have this separate meeting where we can talk about consolidating engagement. But you know what else we'll talk about is how do we use information we already have access to? So what, like, not asking the same questions is a big deal. So great. I'll follow up by email and try to get something on the calendar for us. Thank you guys for hanging around extra, and for the new folks that have come, really appreciated having you. And then we'll see you formally again in May.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank y'all. Take care.
Bye.
Bailey, I'll
Thank
see you in
you
our
very
next
much.
meeting, I guess. Bye.
Thanks, Ben and Emily.
Thanks, Ben and Emily.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
great.
you. We'll talk soon.
See you guys.
Bye.